Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this final session for what has been, for me, a first time at this conference in Yalta. I, like so many others, would like to thank our host, Viktor Pinchuk. It's been absolutely marvelous, and I have just loved the politics and the debate. So who am I? My name is Pat Cox. I'm from Ireland. I am here on my 21st mission visit to Ukraine with President Alexander Kwasniewski, working on questions of selective justice and encouraging some of the reforms which have been so widely discussed as regards Ukraine's European vocation. It is a great pleasure for me to be invited to participate in this way on the last panel, and it is an especial pleasure for me as someone whose whole political career was only ever as a parliamentarian to be privileged to sit with parliamentarians from Verkhovna Rada here today. In the course of our work and our mission, we've had many meetings with members of parliament, and I have to say to all of our panelists, whom we have met on many occasions, a deep sense of gratitude from Alexander Kwasniewski and myself for the way that you have received us, for your openness in dealing with us, and for your constant support from which we've drawn great encouragement. We had the privilege on the 3rd of September, so just early the week before last, to join you in the Verkhovna Rada for the President's address and for the opening of Parliament. I think for us it was a very moving moment, moving to be there to see Parliament in action, moving to be there to hear what was a defining speech to do with the future of Ukraine, and moving for us that when Speaker Rybak introduced us, that we got such a warm appreciation from all of those present, excluding the Communist Party. I should add that for the record. But still, they were polite. They did not applaud, but they were very polite. But what I should say out of that is that we were witnessing, through your work, the beginning, at least for the European reform agenda, of the Parliament finding an appetite for consensus on a strategic issue. And this is a powerfully important thing. We have today on our panel 3 people that I think don't need an introduction, but there may be others like myself who are visiting the conference, and so a brief introduction. Starting closest to me, we have Vitali Klitschko, who is leader of the UDAR party in Parliament, and of course, who is so well known from his earlier career as a wonderful world champion and the most fantastic representative in that role of Ukraine itself. Beside him, we have Arseniy Yatsenyuk, who is leader of the Batkivshchyna faction in Parliament, who has a distinguished career already for so young a man in terms of public service here, a former chairman, Speaker of the Parliament, a former senior assistant to the President's administration, a former chairman of the National Bank, and I think trained in law and economics. And then we have Serhiy Tihipko, who is with the Party of Regents faction, who has a mix of private sector and public sector experience, has been Vice Prime Minister, who chairs a bank board, who has served in economy ministry, and who also has been at the top of the National Bank. Well, we're not going to go into national banking today, but we have a panel really of great depth and experience, and I'm very pleased and privileged, as I said, to be with him today. I want to go back to the panel that Stephen just finished. You may not have seen it, because sometimes before you go on the panel, you're having a chat or you're having a cup of coffee. But there was a vote being done for World Economic Forum. And the last vote was a vote where more than 60%, if I remember, voted for a particular thing. It was a combination out of a choice of three. What did the audience expect would be the performance of economy here over the next 10 years? Was it a positive assessment? And the answer was yes. And what did the audience expect in that positive economy story? Institutions that were supportive and working well, or institutions maybe that were not so supportive? And they voted expecting economic success and not so supportive institutions. So it's a very interesting point of departure in a way, because the question, if it's in the mind of 60% of the audience, how do we get the institutional part established to wrap around a new economic dynamic and to release new potential? Now, to avoid any charges of favoritism, and Alexander Kwasniewski and myself are always very careful to meet everyone on all sides all the time and to seek to keep all doors open, I'm going today, if I may, for the first round, to start alphabetically, and I will work through the panel that way. And that means Vitali Klitschko, you're the first one up alphabetically. If I could ask you, Vitali, in the light of that vote and your role now in Parliament and in politics, how do you see the future to do with this institutional question, and specifically to do with the leadership that you can give in Verkhovna Rada? Microphone. Thank you.
First of all, thank you very much to the chance to be here in Yalta European Strategy. Hi, everybody. I will be speak Ukrainian. It's much easier to bring these messages to you.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, I'm very glad to be here. Thank you for having an opportunity to speak here and take part in this panel discussion. Our meeting is taking place on the eve of a very important event, the signing of the association agreement in Vilnius, and I want to say that this agreement provides us with an opportunity to rapidly overcome the economic crisis that Ukraine finds itself for quite a number of years. Yes, it does provide us with an opportunity, but it depends on us, and only on us Ukrainians, whether we will be able to use this opportunity. I don't even want to consider the bad scenario, the worst case scenario, when the association is not signed. If this happens, I'd like to emphasize once more that the responsibility for the failure to sign the agreement will fall on the shoulders of the present authorities, and personally on the person who has almost absolute power in Ukraine. This is the president of Ukraine, Viktor Yanukovych. In case the agreement is not signed, the president of Ukraine has to resign. I have told him so yesterday, and it was very strange to hear here when I was here to hear from the president that the life is coming better, that Ukrainians are depositing more and more money into the banks, that almost all the conditions for or requirements for signing the agreement have been fulfilled. We're talking about two different Ukraines, or we live in two different Ukraines. Okay, I don't want to speak about this scenario. I do hope that we still have time and all the requirements will be fulfilled, and this agreement will be signed, but we have to provide an important answer. What will be happening after the agreement is signed? We will have to work decisively and fast. For many years in Ukraine, we've been talking about great potential, mentioning the very important geopolitical situation of Ukraine, the best black soil in the world. However, regrettably, the situation Well, we are talking about the potential that we're not using. The situation of stagnation is here. GDP is falling by 15% as compared to the last year. The capital investment has decreased. Millions of Ukrainians are pushed out, have been pushed out abroad because they do not have opportunities to realize themselves in our country, and they are the biggest investors into our country. Only last year, they have invested $7 billion American dollars sent from abroad to their home country. The mistrust of investors, of domestic investors and foreign investors, total corruption that as of today has eaten the country away. This is the red card to the current authorities. We all Ukrainians need the strategy of success. The essence of relations between authorities and the people has to change. We do have a clear-cut plan of transformations in the country, and it provides for reloading of our judiciary system and our law enforcement system. Judges and law enforcement servicemen, officials have to go through lustration. They have to go through anti-corruption lustration. We need simple and transparent rules of managing the economy. We have to destroy the basis for corruption. We have to provide for the minimum dependency of a citizen from an official. We have to return to local self-government because so that Ukrainians in small cities and villages and other cities could influence what is happening, because this is the thing that the state of the country depends on. And we understand that this is impossible without changing the authorities, the people in power. Next, not a single authority could do this without the support from the people. New powers will have to cooperate with the citizens. So next month, me and my team are going on a trip around the country to meet people so that every individual understands what's expecting them in the future, because every entrepreneur has to know that their investment is protected. Every worker has to know what are the social standards they can count upon. Every village person, every farmer has to realize what is going to happen when they are working on land. Every young person should understand that what has to be done in order that they get normal education and then a job. And this has to be done in accordance with European standards.
I'm anxious, if I can, because please, we'll come back to you, to move across the panel quickly to open up a space for debate. And if you have some more points, I will get to you. I don't like interrupting a man who's bigger than me. But if you have something, but if you have something really urgent you want to say, get it off your chest now, and then I'll move the mic along. Thank you.
Ми розуміємо, що тільки підписання дає.
We understand that only the signing provides us with a possibility for systemic reforms in our country, and we are sure that we can implement those reforms if we change the authorities. We will do everything in order for the agreement to be signed, and the opposition forces' task is to do everything, and after the signing, to control the fulfillment of all the requirements of the association agreement. After the authorities are changed, we will do everything possible in order to achieve the European standards of life, because we Ukrainians are Europeans, and Ukraine is Europe, and we Ukrainians will be able to prove this.
Thank you very much, and also for your understanding. So, Serhiy Tihipko, to turn to you again, following the alphabetic logic, starting with the association agreement, but again bringing your opening remarks or responses to where you wish, please.
Добрий вечір, шановні пані і панове.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to be present permanently at the conference, but I managed to listen to recent discussions and I have read carefully through the materials, and I think a lot of things have been said about European integration, about customs union. And, you know, as for me, I think in the country there is an impression that this external political factor is there to solve all of our problems. I think this is a big mistake. All of our problems, in the first place, are internal origin, and they are Ukraine-based. Non-joining association agreement on non-joining the customs union will not solve this problem. And in terms of deciding where to go and how to move, I think I would highlight three most important issues that we have to change. And the three challenges that we have to address. Challenge number one, we have to keep on caring about improving democracy in this country. Why? Because in the first place, democracy gives an opportunity in our Ukrainian conditions, because it can be different in our country, in other countries, but in our Ukrainian conditions, it allows us to build public administration in an effective manner and to make it just. And position number two, I don't want to speak at length about this, but position number two is that we need to improve standards of market economy, not because this has proven to be efficient around the world, but it is important for me that market economy, if properly applied and built, gives an opportunity and gives a chance for any young man capable of working and willing to work all that they need to succeed. And I think the third important issue, that we're spending too much money for social policy. If we look at our budget spendings, most of it are all social expenditures. But I think that at this point, our social policy is not quite fair, or very unfair, I put it this way, because we keep on supporting rich people, well-off people. We subsidize the rich, and that creates in the country the mood of unfairness. And I think that has to be changed. So 3 points: development of democracy, better market standards, and more efficient social policy. That's where we need to go. Thank you.
Very much indeed. Arseniy Yatsenyuk, please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. There is an ongoing debate in my country over very important and historic issue. What to choose? To go to East or to go to West? I strongly believe that this is the choice between the future and the past. And the key issue for Ukraine is to sign the deal with the European Union. Viktor Pinchuk started Yes strategy, and I would just want to focus on Russian Federation too in this particular issue. Because it's clear for us that Ukraine is to sign DCFTA and AA with the European Union, and we are to implement this treaty. But there is no answer on what are we going to do with Russia, because they are still our neighbors, and frankly speaking, we can't replace them. You know, and I believe, Viktor, if I may to use your yes and saying, look, we have yes for Russia too, except 3 no. No customs union, no Russian language as a state one, and no military bloc with Russia. We can get a new type of relations between Ukraine and Russia. But we, as a part, Ukraine as a part of big European space. Ukraine as an integral part of the European Union. Ukraine as a fully independent state, which is absolutely ready to start a new page with Russian Federation. But no threats, no intimidation, cheap and quality Ukrainian chocolate to Russia. And we can done this deal. What needs to be done? For today, we have a very hard talk, but I believe that we will have a very hard toil after we sign AA and DCFTA. 3 things to be executed. The first one, good governance. We need responsible, accountable, and, look folks, smart government. This is extremely important, to have those in the government who are ready to deliver and who are capable to deliver changes in my country. The second point, it's about political and economic monopoly in this country. We need to destroy it. Saying about the politics, how can we destroy the monopoly in Ukrainian politics? Because for today, frankly speaking, it's more resembles a shareholder, a joint stock company with a major shareholder, and we know his name. His name starts with the letter Y. No. Yanukovych. You asked. So what we need free and fair elections in this country. And this is very important and outstanding. And we need to restore a balance of powers in Ukraine. As for today, everything is concentrated just in one office, in office of the President of Ukraine. So to rebalance the power, in terms of monopoly, monopoly is a part of this, economic monopoly is the part of this over-monopolized political system. And we believe that the State Anti-Monopoly Committee is to do its job. Competitiveness and competition must be a key goal for the future of Ukrainian economy. And the third issue, it's about justice and rule of law. Independent courts, accountable and independent prosecutor's office, rule of law, and everyone in this country has to realize that he has not just a chance, but he is absolutely sure that his property will be protected by the Ukrainian law and constitution, that the judge will protect the law, but not the telephone law, which is today in my country. So if we implement these 3 key criteria, we can change, and we will change my country. AA and Association Agreement and DCFTA is a perfect action plan how to change Ukraine. So we need stewardship, we need those who can run, we need those who can deliver, and changes will come. I am very positive about the future of my country. Thank you.
I want to thank all of you for those opening statements, and I want to pick out of it something that you all have in common. You've all talked about the need for governance in some form of improvement in democracy and institution building. Could I ask you just quickly, and then across the panel, for a response? I've observed through the 20 months, the last legislative election for Verkhovna Rada, then the difficulties of the parliament to settle down to ordinary parliamentary business for all the complicated reasons that I followed. I don't wish to go into all those reasons. But you have arrived at a point recently where together, even though you are government and opposition parties, you found the ability, or you're finding the ability, to deliver the reform laws for the association agreement. Can I ask you, is this an ability that you plan to grow into the future. So the monitoring, the following up. Have you now found the formula that will keep you doing the business of parliamentarians for Ukraine after the agreement itself would be signed? Perhaps if I could start with you, Serhiy, and I'll work back across the panel.
It happened so that when we started thoroughly discuss all the issues that we had before the association signature, I was delegated by the Party of Region to coordinate the preparation for the approval of the anti-corruption laws, and I was approaching Mr. Klitschko and Mr. Yatsenyuk. They were allocating their colleagues with whom I was coordinating this work. You know, I think that was the first experience of that kind since the beginning of the parliamentary work of this calling. We have had 14 sessions and 7 laws were approved that we submitted from 4 factions, and all of the voted over 300 votes in favor. And I think there is no any other option in terms of moving forward. No matter how the government will change, we will have to find and be looking for consensus, some kind of consensus. I don't think that we have any significant contradictions to improve our business environments for small and medium-sized business, and we have started that work. I have received these kind of proposals from all the factions except for the communists, and we are now trying to organize this kind of work because we do see the situation for the business is difficult, especially the external markets are deteriorating and there could be sanctions from Russia, so we need to be looking for internal reserves. So therefore, I think that we can work constructively. There is a very good will, and when we feel that practically the moment of a very important moment for Ukraine is approaching, that makes us able to work together. Thank you.
Build on this fresh start.
Mr. President, President Cox and President Kwasniewski, you did a lot in order to calm down Ukrainian House too, because you are well aware that usually the House is already blocked, and due to a very tough political fight between the opposition and the government. That's how it works in every country, because, you know, everyone wants to get the presidential office, and sometimes we forget about the country. What we achieved a real bipartisanship in the last few weeks. And this bipartisanship showed a really successful approach. What we promised, we delivered. We promised to collect the votes for the legislation, we did it. We promised not to block the House, we did it. We promised to introduce a legislation to the House, we did it. So we asked the government and the president to deliver too, what he has promised, including 3 key benchmarks.
Vitali.
Дуже тяжко сказати щось додатково, тому що колеги...
It's hard to say something in addition because the colleagues have really remarked that we've been voting for the laws, and I have said more than once that we should vote for European laws, not because they are called so, but because the essence is European. And I'm very glad that the last votings in Ukraine have gathered more than a constitutional majority in favor, more than 300 votes. We have passed through the first very important stage, and we still have quite a lot of laws that we have to vote on, and I hope for the same mutual understanding, the law on the General Prosecutor's Office, and there will be many other laws that we are considering now. We have different opinions, but I am glad that we are finding mutual understanding and are moving in a clear-cut and assured way, because it is impossible to protract with these issues, because we are approaching the event on which our future depends. I hope that everybody understands this, and also taking into account the systemic crisis that we've approached. It is very dangerous for the society because the temperature is rising and we have to find the way out. It is necessary to build the economy that will work because we are lagging behind. We have mentioned other countries quite a lot of times today, and we've been talking about Poland, which was able to implement those systemic reforms that today show that Poland today is being compared to German economy, and Poland has moved quite a way forward, and I am sure that we have to go along the same path. As far as the laws are concerned, I say that we'll do everything in order for those laws to be voted for, and then we have to sign the agreement, and then we have to do everything possible so that all the clauses of this agreement are fulfilled.
Invite questions from the floor, and I see a few hands. That's very good because we have a few minutes. Can we get microphones? Yuri Lutsenko, you've obviously come here to talk. You had to stay quiet for a long time.
First of all, it is very pleasant to see those three persons, because if we had such a presidential choice, I would be much more relaxed about the result of 2015. As you know, I'm posing questions to those to whom I could not talk in the recent years, because I was corresponding with Vitali and Arseniy, but I had no opportunity to talk to Mr. Tigipko. I have quite a serious question to you, Serhiy, because we've got now a strategic choice, because we are talking that Ukraine is on European path, and we will not yield to Medvedchuk and Simonenko or Putin. But I'm sure that the choice is really between whether we leave those people in power who are there today, because without any changes, and then there's parliamentary elections in 2017, when the Party of Regions may go into opposition. Will the Party of Regions adhere to pro-European choice even in 2017, so that the pro-European trend is preserved? Or when the Party of Region loses power, won't they become allies of the Kremlin, Medvedchuk and Simonenko? I started my answer with mentioning democracy, and within the conditions of democracy, maybe in 2017, maybe sooner or later, the Party of Regions will go into opposition, because democracy does lead to change of power. But I hear quite a lot of criticism about the Party of Regions. But as far as the European aspect is concerned, over the last 3 years, quite a lot was done so that we approach Vilnius, and no one talks about this. 90% of documents that were to be drafted and prepared and voted for were prepared in recent 3 years. The party is quite big, and there are different positions within it, and we've had discussions within the party, and we still have people who do not want this option and who are talking about Eurasian choice and the customs union. But I think that the majority of people, especially young and progressive people, are on positions of European integration, and I think this is not going to change. Of course, we will be talking constantly about the improvement of relations with the Russian Federation. I think that this is very important for us. It is not the choice for us, or either or. We have to stand on the positions of European integration, but we have to find options, and I'm sure they are possible, so that we have good economic and other relations with Russia.
Permission will hold Ukrainian discussions in Ukrainian. Шановні учасники панелі,
Dear members of the panel, after yesterday and today, when we members of the conference were talking outside the hall and about the panels, we were talking that everybody will leave in the panel discussions without shame, the feeling of shame, but rather with a feeling of pride for our politicians and our leaders who were conducting dialogue with real European culture and at a European level. I'm sure that after your panel discussion, we will leave the hall again with the feeling of pride for our politicians. I don't know what happened so that we found that we now see the European culture in our politicians. Must be Mr. Glaziev helped us. Maybe we finally reached the stage where quantity transforms into quality, but I know that we all like this culture of communication between and interaction between the powers and the opposition. What can be done so that this culture does not end today at the beach party, but spreads to Kiev and other regions so that it survives the Vilnius summit and will remain with us until presidential elections and after them? Vitali Klitschko, really, as you said, the progress is significant. We are talking, but I would draw your attention to the fact that this communication should not remain just a declaration, because we've seen quite a lot of declarations in the history of Ukraine. We have to take clear-cut steps. And what we do, the association agreement provides for clear responsibility of the country for what it does and how it fulfills its obligations under the control of our colleagues, the opposition, and all the citizens. It is very important to do this in public. If our politics become public and if public controls the steps, then we will move forward. Otherwise, well, we have a negative experience of declarations and very good slogans at conferences and so on. But I'd like very much that we do share responsibility, and we as young politicians have the responsibility to switch from declarations to real changes in lives of ordinary Ukrainians. If this does not happen, we will wane into background and we'll lose our role in Ukrainian politics, because declarations are declarations, but we have to take specific steps, and we are showing that we can do this. My answer to your question, well, I'll allow myself and to simplify it and tell you that it depends on us all, not only on the president or the prime minister or the cabinet of ministers. It depends on everybody. And here you have to, in particular, say how the changes in the country are happening. Of course, the political elite are responsible for changes in the country, but they are able to effect those changes only when millions are supportive, only when millions believe in these changes, and when we are united by an idea. Over the last period of time, I think that Ukraine has become united in one idea, The idea of a European state, European country with European standards, with what is called respect to the rights of a person and a citizen. It is in our interest to do everything possible in this direction so that sometimes words do not contradict the acts. Well, European words, you know, yesterday the president was speaking in a very cultured European way, but then very culturally they launched criminal cases. Then, according to the telephone law, the courts are passing their sentences and the police is taking people away and putting them behind bars. It is very important that the acts correspond to your words because you have to be responsible for them. Dear ladies and gentlemen, I think that competition is a good word and it is a very good thing in politics as well. And I think it is good that there's competition in Ukraine. In some neighboring countries, well, I have difficulty with imagining such an event in some neighboring countries. Maybe in the parliament we are doing this in a tougher way, but I think that in some issues we will never agree on some issues. But what's a road to this mutual understanding and what has made us peaceful? Because we had a common cause. Common causes make us cooperate. If we do not work together, then we have destruction. And we have to find a constructive agenda, and I have to concentrate on it, which reconciles us.
In fact, time is catching up with us, and I'm sorry that I can't take other questions because I do want to keep us on time, but I do thank you for your willingness to participate. I won't take more questions, and my apologies. It's just at this stage, I do want to make sure at least the train that I'm running arrives on time. Can I say to the three colleagues on the platform here, Serhiy, Arseniy and Vitali, as I remarked at the outset, it has been a special pleasure for our mission to be able to work with you. It is a great joy for us to see the way Parliament has found this mature consensus for Ukraine. I think it fills me with a great sense of hope about the future of this country and about its possibilities. And it is the emergence, of course, government and opposition will always disagree. That's why we have them. It's the vitality of democracy. But it's great to see on a big strategic question like this that you have collectively understood and shared one big message, that this can be about consensus and win-win. Each side brings the win, each side owns the win, and it is not the zero-sum politics of one wins and one loses. And I want to say personally to each of you a word of gratitude and thanks, and I want especially to thank you for the vital leadership which you are now giving for the future of your country. It is my turn now just to wrap up quickly. Lots of people here have asked me, some media, and we don't do media comments so much, Alexandra and myself, not because we're shy, but it's our working method on our mission to do things quietly and to hope for success. And success is possible. Lots of people have asked me, when do we report, and is our report mostly written, and what will be in it? I want to tell you the report I would love to give. I would love to give a report of 2 words, and I hope we can give this report. And those 2 words would be mission accomplished.